For those of you that, oh, and by the way, I'm putting these recordings on the Facebook page and on YouTube. So what that means is we can never see your faces. So make sure your video is always off. And as long as your video is always off, I can put it on YouTube. Otherwise, I have to go through and blur out your face and all of this nonsense. So I prefer just to go ahead and don't ever show your face. Perfect. That way, the videos can go up on YouTube, and you can speak. Now, there's no problem with that, but just don't show your face, because then I have to go through and blur out your face, and it takes a lot of time and energy, so I prefer just not to do that. And it's because weird rules about kids on YouTube. But if you want me to put these videos up, then you need to follow the rules. Same thing, don't play on the, we talked about that before, don't play in the thing and all that. All right, so let's start today, just like we did before, in getting the project that we're working on moved up a little bit more. I wanted to show, and you can type in Unity speed build. I did that on purpose so you can see that all of the level designs that you can do, and these are different people. I'm subscribed to most of them, so I can watch how they build something. But you can see if you want to watch someone design in like 7 minutes, this kind of thing, you can see there are some people that have, like Maverick is very well known. He's got like 2 million or 3 million subscribers or something like that. This is from 5 years ago, but oh, stop talking WikiBuy person. All right, but you can see this person has 1,000 subscribers and 2 million views almost. But you can see this is an old version of Unity, and in the short period of time was able to build out whatever this might be. This is like, it might be a road or something like that, or an airport. Oh yeah, it looks like a road. And yes, it's tedious work, but the reality is, like, you probably, once you've built your game design, especially for this class, you probably won't have to do this very often. Like we're going to design a game, and the game is going to be of your own choosing, but you can use objects that you import from other places. So I'm going to show you in a future lesson how to import outside objects, like lots of them, and where to get them from and all that, 3D objects, and most of them are free. So you can go and figure out your game design just from that. And you can see here, just by placing, having a few different kind of objects. So I think I don't know if he's gonna make a bridge here or what. I'm not exactly sure. But just by making, having a few different kinds of objects, you can place all kinds of things and make it look really, really unique. Yeah, so I have no idea. So let's just watch this for a minute. It might be only we're not going to watch the whole thing because we have to get into our lesson. But you can see here, like, this person obviously knows where they're going. They're using shortcut keys. They're almost never touching even though it shows the button moving up here. Really, they're probably always using shortcuts, because they're so much faster than to move your mouse all the way up here. You can see here, like, really the mouse is actually staying in the middle, almost never going over anywhere else, because they're so good at the shortcut keys. There is a shortcut key cheat sheet that I'm going to send to all of you, and I hope that encourage you to print a copy of it, or if you're like me and have a second screen, have it up on the screen on one of them, so that you get used to looking at the shortcuts and then using them. And occasionally during this class, I'm going to ask you for what a certain shortcut is and see who blurts out the answer the fastest. But you can see here, this wasn't that long. Like, yes, they sped it up in time, but this probably took an hour, probably. But this also is a person that's been doing this for since the beginning of Unity, basically. But for you, building something like this shouldn't be more than like 4 or 5 hours total. And this is a complicated one. For something like a simple game, like say like we develop a first-person shooter, or you know, whatever, you know, kind of game, a cart game, we can do that cart game development like that in a couple hours once we get better at this. But look at that. I mean, this is just him dropping a bunch of different, what we call assets, onto the scene, the palette, and knowing, you know, what assets they have in order to make this work. But look at that. I would consider this impressive if I don't already do it myself. It is very impressive to watch someone else do it. Okay, so let's stop there. Let's look at maybe the finished product. Let's see how close we can get to the finished product. And we're going to talk about light and camera. We're not there yet, but let's just watch a couple more minutes of this. Okay, let's stop on a good spot. Let's find a good spot to look at a bunch of detail at once. Yeah, so awesome. You can see, like, this is it's probably sped up to like 5 times. So they did this in roughly 60 minutes, the whole thing. I don't expect any of us to be able to do that in 60 minutes. I definitely cannot do this in 60 minutes, but I could probably do it in about an hour and a half. Why? Because the shortcut keys, I use so many different editors that even if I set my shortcuts up the way I want them, they still will probably not work right. Okay, any questions about what you see here before we get into today? All right, let's get started. And again, if you're not speaking actively about something to do with what we're talking about, then mute your mic, please. All right, so today we're back at the project that we're working on, and let's see if I can drag it into the screen. Here we go. We're back here, and what do we have yesterday? Just to remind ourselves, we have this game where you can shoot. We have this like shoot, 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 and he's gone. Made a bunch of them. And you can see some of them require more shots than others, and that was because of what did we do yesterday? Anybody recall?
You make their health, you increase their health.
Yep. Okay. And hopefully you all had a chance to kind of, please stay muted, Jasiri. We spent some time like looking into what these things are, the hierarchy, the project console. Well, we haven't got to the console yet, but the project, and then the inspector. Those are the major things that we looked at the other day. You can drag anything that you don't want to have big or small. You can drag all of these boxes over. Don't worry about breaking anything. You can always get it back. Same thing here. And typically I work off my big screen, which is a 26-incher, and I don't need to really move any of these things out of my way. But if you're working on a laptop or something small, like a 13-inch laptop, then you definitely probably want to hide these things. And how you hide them is simply to go over to this area and close tab, or you can minimize tabs. Certain tabs can be locked, actually almost all of them can be locked. So don't worry about if you accidentally drag something, and you always put it back. There's also a default view, a default return all the settings back to normal, which I recall is in here somewhere. Yeah, layouts somewhere in there. So revert to factory settings. There we go. So there it is right here. So if you do something wrong and you don't like what you just did, just click on that and you'll be good to go. Okay. All right. So we're going to continue on from yesterday. And by the way, if you recall, I am following something like this that has like all of the tooling, everything that we're going to be doing all in one spot. So this is not magic. And I am definitely, while I'm consider myself decent at this, often I still follow other people's tutorials, and just like you see right here. Okay, let me move some boxes out of the way, close some stuff down. Give me a couple seconds. I'm just closing some stuff, getting some stuff out of the way. Awesome. All right. Okay. So I'm just going to continue on from where we left off. If there are no questions from yesterday, I'll try to monitor the chat, but you know, the likelihood that I'll be able to see the chat every time, who knows? So just bear with me. Okay, so I think we ended on adding a bunch of, we were adding prefabs onto targets. And if we recall what that is I made a germ spike, and I did it the hard way, which was basically I went in, I modeled it, or in that case, I grabbed the image asset, and then I started adding all of these things to it. So if you remember, I added in a rigid body, a sphere collider, and a target. Typically, that's the kind of three things that you'll always be adding, you know, to any of your objects. And then you just do that over and over and over and over again. Okay. Lost the chat. So if somebody wants to say something, just come off mute if you need to. Somehow my chat has disappeared again. Okay, so we're going to continue to the next step, and this is like designing your own level. So what we're going to do is basically start designing the next level of the application. Okay, so this scene, we're going to zoom out so we can take a look at the parts around this room. Does anybody remember how to zoom out? You can come off mute because I can't see the chat.
Wheel.
Oh, excellent. All right. I'll bring the other. There is the chat again. There we go. Good. Disappeared for a second. And let me get participants back too. Okay, good. All right. So yeah, going to zoom out the mouse wheel. Perfect. And then we're going to look at the space around this other. So this is like a room. We're going to create another room is what we're going to do. So there, if you click on level layout, you'll start to see a bunch of basically circles around this room right here, which they call the brain room. And so we're gonna, and level layout means the level of the game that you're on. So we can create many levels. So if I wanted to look at, say, the things that are in this room, I can click on this little area right here, and it'll give me all the list of components that are available to me at the level layout. This is another, and unfortunately with Unity, by the way, there's a lot of little things that you can click on and see what those things do. There are lots of different things. These are built-in components that are sitting here, and some of them are like we already played with the sphere collider. It's right there. There it is. But these are lots of components, and you're not meant to know them all today. Somebody asked about the box collider. There it is right there. And an edge collider. You're not meant to know them all, but eventually you will know them by the fact that you're looking at them all the time. Bryson, I see you had a question. I will come help you at the end of today. But just follow along right now. That way we don't have to stop the whole class for that. And again, my expectation is that you are all, after the class is over, doing all this kind of stuff that I'm doing. I don't expect you to be doing this while I'm doing it. As a matter of fact, I prefer you didn't. That way, you could watch and you don't have to ask the question of, what did you just do a second ago? Well, because you're watching, so you know what I did a second ago. All right, so I clicked on Gizmo. And by the way, the recordings are all going to be on Facebook and YouTube. So, all right. So in the menu, what we're going to do is look at this Gizmos menu. And as you go there, you can see that there's a bunch of components. Like here is a audio source and audio reverb. If I am outside of that, still in the whole level, and I don't want the sound for this little area to be the sound for the whole level, then I need to turn this off, this audio source and audio reverb zone, right? If I turn that on, you can see this is the area in which that audio is going to be propagated. In other words, once I get over here, this is where it's going to start making noise. Okay. Awesome. So I've turned that off. How did I do that? Went to Gizmos, and I turned off these two. Right. All right. By default, I think it comes off. I think so. So, and then you have to turn it on. Okay, so now we're going to add a new room. We still have level layout selected. And we're going to click edit layout. So with level layout selected, if you go to the inspector window, you'll see that these are all the things you can do in level layout. And almost every time that you click on something, you'll see this thing change. And I can do something called editing layout, or I can add components, etc., just like we did before. So I'm gonna click on edit layout. Okay, and now option to add or remove. Let's see, add. Oh, I'm back in here, my bad. Okay, and then this normally is something that's a lot bigger than this. I don't know why it's so small. Yeah, usually it's much bigger, but I'm gonna click on corridor group or room group to add rooms. So I'm gonna click on room group, and you can see here that there's already some kind of indication of what kind of rooms that it could be. Okay. So here I can add another room group. So there's another room group. Here's another possibility for a room group. These are because they already created these different rooms. But you can see here, I can place one of these if I want to. It automatically snaps to next to the previous room, and you can make it snap basically on any of the sides, any of the planes. You can make it snap to that part of the plane. So if I wanted to, I can make it snap to this plane. I can make it snap to that plane, or over here, etc. And I can create multiples of those. Right. So I want to add 2 groups, 2 rooms. I can do that. Right. And if I wanted to remove, there it is. It's gone. And so forth and so on. So you don't need to kind of drain that. Okay, so let's add just one new room. And let's put it over here and make it a brain room, I guess. And then from there, we're going to give that room a way in. So a door, probably right over there. So if I'm done here, which I am, you don't have to do anything to be done there. You can just go ahead and go away to some other place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into assets and find a door from my assets. Eventually, what we'll do is we'll work on how to create or to find assets from wherever you want to find them from. What we're going to do is just use the existing asset that's there. So here I'm going to put right here, I'm going to put this fat blob is now my door. I'm going to put that in there somewhere like that. Okay, and zoom in so we can just look at where this thing is and maybe move it to so it looks kind of where it's supposed to be. Okay, so once I'm done with this level, this room in this level, I'm going to allow my user to go over to this room. But I'm not going to let them do that until I'm at the point of, having this thing be done. So I want them to do something here first, and then I'm going to let them go to the next level. So if sorry, this might bother your eyes for a second because I'm going to just do some really quick movements. But what I want to do now is I want to block that door, this doorway here with that. So I'm going to move it to where it's kind of blocked it. And actually, let's spin this around so that it is facing the other direction. Okay, and now that we've done that, let's move it again so that it actually, there we go. Often when I'm designing these things, I find different views or basically move things to the point, move the scene around so I can make sure that what I've done makes sense. Does that make sense? Good. Because you'll find that like you'll start working and everything looks so great, and then 2 seconds later it's like it doesn't, like you can still get somewhere that you didn't intend your user to be able to go to. So I just go around and I find a different view. And right now I'm using my mouse buttons to do this. You could use the move button, but a mouse is easier. Okay, so it's where I want it to be. There it is. And I want to lock this. Okay, so in other words, I don't want my user to be able to get into this room, this door, without having to do something here. So I want to, so if you look here, it says key needed, right? So now, since we need a key, since we have a lock, this is a locked door, how do we know that? It's because they've given us a lock script. In other words, you can't get to it. What we're going to do is create something called the key script. So this is very, allows you to unlock this door. So down in the project window, there is also a key, and you saw there's lock, there's key, right? So I'm going to drag the key over here to where, near where the lock is. Doesn't have to be exact. And then here, I'm going to associate this key with that lock. So right now it's named key, I believe, something like that. And we're going to give it a type. I'm going to tell it that it's a key and a name. And then we're going to go back to that lock and let them know that there's a key associated with that lock. So key type is key 1. So this key opens that lock. Make sense? Cool. So if I now play the game, and I move over to that lock, it's going to tell me there's a key needed for the lock, and there's the key. Cool? Exit. What you can do is make it so that the key is not visible until the user has kind of killed all the monsters in that room, or whatever the goal is. I mean, in my case, the goal is the monster in that room. Okay, so we actually have completed a whole tutorial lesson in which you create a room and you create a new room. So I want to congratulate you all for sticking through this and seeing that it's not easy, but once you get used to it, you will be able to do this all by yourself. So if you wanted to, you can create rooms with just boxes, and then you know, start to place objects in that room. You can do that today with just what you know so far. All right, let's create some new weapons. Wow, sound like fun. And if you don't like weapons, then you can create some new whatever you want that works in this case. But for this particular project, we're going to still create what they call a germo blaster. So in prefabs, yet again, it has a folder called weapons, but you can have one called whatever you want. And there's the germo blaster in there. Okay, so before I manipulate this germo blaster, I'm gonna make a copy of it. So what I want to do to make a copy of this germo blaster in Windows is I'm going to click on Command D, but in Mac it is Control D. Mac is Command D. And what happened there? Oh, I'm click on germo blaster now. D. And I clicked on Windows key D because I was not paying attention, and that's the reason why you saw that. Okay, so this is a germo blaster, and this is the copy, as you can see over here, that it's Germoblaster 1, not Germoblaster. Got it? Cool. Okay, so do I like the name? You know, not quite sure. I can do some things to change the name if I want. I could rename it just by right-clicking, right? You can also, if you're really quick, you can click on F2 and rename it. That's a little too much hotkey control. I can right-click and do the same thing. All right, so what are we gonna name it? We're gonna name it, first person to call out something is what we're gonna name it. Germinator, love it. Germinator. How original. All right. So awesome. So now we have a Germinator. Occasionally you'll see me, the screen will flash just because I'm clicking on save, Control S. I often, every now and then, whenever I think I've done something significant, I click save. Whenever I get up from my desk, I click save. When I'm done for the day, I click save. And we'll also talk about something called source control later on. And does anybody know what that is, by the way? No. Okay. We'll talk about it later on. But really, source control in being an engineer will become your friend one day. And that is a place somewhere else outside of your computer where your files are stored. Everything I do, and I can tell you just today, I did an upgrade on one of my robots. As you know, I'm a robotic engineer, and the upgrade crashed my robot and would not start. There's no way to get my robot open again, the CPU. So luckily for me, I backed up all of my work to a place called GitHub, and that worked out. But if NVIDIA, if you're watching, bad NVIDIA, bad. Okay. All right, so here we have this new weapon. So when you double click on it, it gives you a big picture of the new weapon, right? And then in the inspector, I can see all of this kind of information about the weapon that they've already given us. So this is stuff that when it's declared to be a weapon, that Unity knows, and you add scripts and components and things like that. But the component knows these various things, and you can add custom things as well. But these are the various things you can add. I don't expect you again to know what these things mean, but we are going to go over a little bit about this prefabbed weapon. And prefab means it's already kind of been put together for us, right? Trigger type, it's automatic. Right now, when I mouse down, it automatically shoots, but I can change that to manual. So let's go ahead and do that. And then clip size, this clip size is set to 30. I'm gonna set it down to 8, right? And what else? Damage. Well, I'm gonna make it do super damage since I have my clip size is so small. I'm gonna make it do 5 of damage. And I'm intentionally following the tutorial just in case somebody can't make this and wants to like do this on their own. But I'm doing it in real time, real speed, so that you can see how this all works. But you can see here, there's different ammo types, and we're gonna get into all that. You know, there's different physics for the projectiles that it can shoot. There's different fire rates, how fast you can fire, reload time, how long does it take you to reload this weapon. And when I mean by weapon, it's really, you can use this as kind of any kind of object that interacts with another object. Let's put it that way. I'm using the term weapon because if I type in weapon, there's a weapon component that's already built for us. You can use custom components too, by the way. Okay, said a lot here. All right, so we changed the damage. So we're in prefab mode. If I want to exit prefab mode, all I have to do is go back to the scene and click on scene. Okay, so now we have this new Germinator and we have the Germo Blaster as well. Very cool. So we actually created this weapon, but it's not available to our player. So we haven't talked about player yet. So where, does anybody see on the screen where there might be some kind of player object? And that's the secret to this object. Objects in our game that are already in the game. Anybody know? Character. Yep. Absolutely. Dead on. Yeah, Dennis, if I teach this class again, you might, if you're interested, might become one of my teacher's assistants one day. Very, very, very cool. So yeah, character. In the inspector window, if I click on character, now I'm seeing all the attributes of my character. So we're saying some new terms. I'm saying them to you intentionally, not giving you all the meanings, because you should be able to like reason what that means. What does an attribute mean? Based on me saying attribute and looking at all these things. So these are, an attribute really is the things that the object can do. So if the object is a character, and my character is, whenever we're just looking at the base character, this is what it can do, what it looks like, the materials it has, lighting on it, you know, controls it uses, you know, all of that stuff. And you can just, and you can see here, there's a theme. Everything, every object can have components, and components have attributes. That's the theme. Okay, awesome. All right, so I'm looking down here, and I see all the different things that it has as character controls. It has possible keychains, and we'll talk about all of that. There's weapon camera. There's, let's just go through the list. So there's, you can transform or move where it's at. There's the materials that are being used for this particular character. There's a character controller, which is how fast it can move, and all the attributes of that. There's starting weapons and there's starting ammo. So if I open up starting weapons, here it is. I have my Germo Blaster, right? And it looks like I have a pill, and then a Heal-Matic 500. Awesome, right? So I'm gonna add a weapon. So here, size is the size of what we call an array, and we're not there yet, so we're not gonna talk about what an array is. But it is how, basically think about you had a bag of weapons or a bag of elements. I can add one new item by changing this number to 4. So I changed that to 4. As you can see here, it just gave me a new slot. Okay. And now if I want to change that to be a different asset, when I clicked on that, sorry, it opened up in my other window, but when I click on that, it now shows me the list of potential assets that are there. The one way I can do that is I can select a weapon there. The other thing I can do is I can drag this over to here. Now I have my Germinator, right? And then, just regularly I save. Okay, so how did I do that? I was in character. I changed the starting weapons to 4 after I opened this up, and I added Germinator as 4. Okay, so now we're going to test this. As with everything we do, we test. We're going to go to play mode, and in this case, the mouse wheel changes the weapon. Doesn't always have to be like that. You can use the inspector and attributes to change what mouse buttons do and what clicks do. All right, so let's play it. Still in that same room. I changed my weapon. I got my pill. All right, now I'm on weapon 4. I'm on the Heal-O-Matic. Oh, I went back to weapon 1, so I'm gonna go to the Germinator. There's Germinator. Oh, look at that. Ow. Missed him. Nope. That one's just an insanely difficult one. And it doesn't have as many items in there. I'm not a good shot. So let's go a little bit forward. I think that's one of the ones we made up that was, yeah, I think it's not a real one. Yeah, I don't know what that is. We probably put one in the game.
That one's a real one. You killed it last time. Maybe you have to use the other weapon.
Well, who cares? Not important. Okay, go back on mute, please. Thank you. Yeah, I should have died by now. Unless what we'll do is we'll stop it, exit it, and we'll modify its attributes. Because I don't recall why it's not dying. It's this one over here. Germ slime. Oh, it has no attributes whatsoever to die. It would never die. Why? Because there's no component here. Remember we set up before, we set up the what we call the colliders or the hit boxes. We didn't do any of that on this one, right? So that particular germ slime, I don't want that germ slime anymore. Makes it easy. Good enough. Okay. All right, we went through that really fast. That was awesome. So what we're gonna do now, with our 10 minutes left, we can do one or two things. I can take some questions from you, or we can continue with this game. And if I don't hear any questions in 30 seconds, I'm gonna continue with the game. All right, no questions. Everybody enjoying yourselves? You don't have to speak up, you can just chat.
Yeah.
Yep, cool. Cool. Yeah, if you're getting some out of this, awesome. If it's too much, let me know. And there are other, I don't want anybody to like run away if it's too much. There's just other things that you can do to kind of keep up. But all of this takes time. Like I'll tell you a quick story. I started developing to some degree when I was 7 years old. My dad had I think it was like a Commodore 64 or some like old machine. And I got a coding book, I think that he gave me. And I developed my first games in really old DOS program, DOS editor. And so I developed games that are like, a few pixels, so very small. Like when you think of all this detail here, if I zoomed way in and we get to like 1 pixel, I developed games that were like pixelated and small. But it started me down the path of wanting to be a software engineer. And then he also gave me old television and a bunch of tools, which by the way, don't do it because it's very dangerous because they have these things called cathode ray tubes in them. They're super dangerous and full of electricity. But he gave me that and some tools on a workbench and told me to go to the library and figure out how a television worked. So that's how I became an engineer, was because my dad gave me those books and some tools to play with. So these days, you guys are lucky because all this stuff is on the internet and you can almost build anything you want. Like you guys came from my robotics class, know that you can create almost anything now with the internet. Typically, I am looking in libraries and on YouTube to figure out how things work. I didn't like the way that is, so I'm gonna move it over just a little bit.
Speaking of that, is our robot done yet?
Your robot is not done, and that's because I stopped doing your robot to do something kind of cooler. No offense, but your robot's been designed and printed. I just need to build it. Coded, it's complete.
Okay.
Yeah, designed and built is the thing. And I stopped because I got something that I'll be telling you guys about at the end that I'm already working on, and it's pretty awesome. Okay, so let's continue. Yeah, cooler. It's cooler for sure. But the robot still needs to be built because it's going to be part of a system of robots. We talked about in robotics class, we talked about swarm bots. It's going to be part of a swarm. Okay, so let's continue on here. Let's create a way to get this key, right? So right now there's a key. You kill off all the bad guys, and now we need a way to like get the key. So first thing we're going to do is in the hierarchy window, we're going to add some things. We're going to right click, and if you right click, you'll see a bunch of new options that you haven't seen before. If you right click over an object, then you get different options, just so you know, because they kind of correspond to what that object can do. But here, I have an option to select empty. So I'm going to select empty. And what did that do? That added a blank game object. So you look over here now in Inspector, you'll see that I have a completely blank object. Okay? And what I want to do is I want to name this object level end, because I want it to actually, once all of the monsters are dead, I want to allow the user to go to, go to the next level. That makes sense? Cool. All right, so I typed in level in there, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to transform that component, right? Okay, and in transform, I have an option to, if I click on this ellipse right here, I can now do something called reset. There's also copy, and there's also a new reset position that you can go to. So if I wanted to, at the level end, I could copy all of my other, all of these other little guys. I can copy them back onto the level and make them harder or make them different and basically use the same room over and over and over again. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to reset. Okay. So now, if I want to just focus on that object or find my object of level end, does anybody remember what the hotkey is for that? And I'm gonna set F for find. Yes, right. F for find. F for focus. Okay. Some of these I want you to remember, because it's hard to go from over here all the way over there, double click on it, and then it does the same thing. But it's much easier just to click on F. Go back to your scene, click F. Okay, so I'm going to add a component to this. So I'm going to add, let's say, I'm going to follow their tutorial. I was going to add something different, but I'll add a box collider. So I'm going to search box collider. There we go. So I added a box collider. And if I want to delete anything, I just remove the component, right? All right. So here we have this, it's resetting to the center. And then I'm adding a box collider. Okay, so there it is. So now if you look here, there's a collider in there. And so that's cool. It's a box. So where we would like the level to end, where would we, so if I'm done killing off these monsters and I have that key over there, then I want the level to end, you know, right at the next spot over there in the corridor. So like up over here. Like up in here somewhere. Make sense? Everybody make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so that's where I'm gonna have the level end, right there. So then I'm gonna, of course, always save the changes that I've just made. I'm gonna do maybe one or two more steps. Okay, so awesome to have this level end over here and a key. The problem with this game right now is if I played it, I can just walk over to that level and the level's over. So if it's already triggered, or the another case may be I may kill everything on this level, and even though there's a level end attribute object, nothing's going to happen because I haven't triggered anything. So I think what I want to do is make it so that this box collider on level end is triggered. Okay. Okay, great. Does anybody know what a trigger is? What does that mean? Somebody, real quick. We're running out of time, so I gotta talk fast. All right, I'm gonna answer that one. Trigger is some event that causes something to happen. So when your room isn't clean and you yelled at your sibling and you, I don't know, you've broken the glass in your house, that triggers your parents to do something, usually yelling at you. Similarly, when you know,
The alarm could go off.
Alarm can go off, yes. That is the result of a trigger. So the trigger would be someone opened your door or your window, or a sensor in your house, a motion sensor, that is the trigger to the alarm going off. Does that make sense?
I rode the bus to school, and when I came home, whenever I opened the door, I had 30 seconds to disarm the alarm system.
Yes, and so you triggered the alarm wait trigger. So it's going to wait for your 30 seconds to end, then it's going to go off. You triggered that by opening the door. Okay, yep. So I'm running out of time, so we won't get to finish this one. But again, if you have any questions, any issues, what we're gonna do right here is stop and save, of course. We always save. And then, save project. I did it by, there's Control S, but you should know this, right? Okay. Good times. I had a lot of fun today. Thank you for joining. This one definitely will be on Facebook and YouTube because there were 3 or 4 people that couldn't make it today, and their parents asked me to record it. So this one will definitely be on Facebook. Go to the Tinker Academy of Livermore Facebook page, and you'll be able to see it. It'll be in a post. Thank you, and everyone have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.